Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So we're going, monastery community, we call it entering retreat. Entering, it's good to use a term like that because involved means we set up something and then we move inside it. And those are both important. Just setting up something, structures, and so forth. Setting up structures of practice, frames of reference, establishments of mindfulness, precepts, systems, so forth. You get just enough of what you need, and you move inside it. Settle down, get comfortable, enjoy it, open up, see what can arise when you've established a proper foundation. Setting up, establishing is adhitthana. Thana, a foundation, adhitthana, a further or a deeper or a fuller, more fulfilling foundation. And retreat time, we're using these structures which help to limit the outgoing tendencies of mind, primarily, body and mind. But body we move around, but the mind we keep it established. And where do we keep it established? What do you move inside? What do you enter into? Yeah. Untrained, unawakened, unpracticed mind doesn't have anything to enter into, really. Just, anything. It's welded, glued to circumstances. And as we call this circumstantial mind, dealing with facts and figures and future and past and what we might call external phenomena, and even creating external phenomena such as the future, which doesn't actually exist. Possibilities, so this externally pointing mind can create a world, and we feel ourselves very much in that world. And yet, you're not really in it. You can't, because there's no place in it you can sit down and rest. It always has to keep, mind is constantly keeping it going. There's an internal aspect of mind, citta. So the external is called mano-vijnana, mind consciousness, internal citta, which is more the sense of when you're present, when you're here and you're feeling something, sensing something, you're feeling happy or sad, open or closed, agitated, tense, restless. Yeah? And that, wherever you are, whatever your name is, wherever your place is geographically, these internal qualities are there. Internally the mind can feel depressed or elated, strong energy, low energy. It can be expansive or contracted. It can be very tense and tight, obsessive, or very loose and spun out, or it can be made beautiful. And this internal aspect is what we enter into. This is the field, the Buddha said, the most worthwhile cultivating to liberate oneself from stress. And when you liberate yourself from stress, it also means that very fact of freeing up this internal aspect of mind from its stress, its obsessiveness, its depression, its compulsiveness. Both the process of doing that and the results of that, qualities such as clarity, strength, determination, patience, are associated with that. Loving kindness is associated with that. Beautiful qualities arise by themselves from the process of liberation and the results of liberation, of citta. So, well, how do you get in there? Because one person, average person, talks about their mind, it's going to this huge flood of thoughts, trying to construct intelligent thoughts, or what's the most useful thought, or how do we get to know more, how do we get to know more about anything, life, the purpose of life, why I'm here, the nature of Buddha, and the Buddha said all this is pointless because it doesn't take you in, it takes you out to more and more mental proliferation. You don't get to the end of suffering and stress, you don't generate or create those supports that will allow the real beauty of the mind to arise, which is internal. So what's the support for that? And well, we do have this quality, and most of us will find support for that by considering qualities such as virtue. His internal quality, conscience, concern for others, generosity and goodwill, internal qualities, not associated with circumstances, not associated with the time of day, not something you have to plan for. They arise. So this is an important foundation. These are not just ideas or principles, but they are qualities you can feel. So internal qualities of mind, you feel them. And they can be so rich that you feel really saturated, uplifted, calmed, encouraged by them. You feel quiet and settled by them. They're not just ideas, something we should do. Precepts are not just laws you should obey. They're called a treasure that you dwell in because they make you feel good. And when you feel good in this particular way, you act good. So internal qualities then lead how we will behave externally. You get it that way round. But for what we call meditation retreats, you need to use the body. Mindfulness of body. Buddha, for meditators, there's the possibility of realizing the deathless. And the Buddha said you don't realize the deathless unless you develop mindfulness of body. It's a pretty strong, simple statement. In fact, just as all rivers flow into the ocean, all skillful qualities that are relevant to liberation all flow into mindfulness of the body. So these are two very strong, clear statements that the Buddha made to heighten this important foundation. And what does this mean? So again, average person assumes the body is the thing they see in the mirror, hair, skin, tissues and so forth. And yes, that's true. And we would say that's the external visual appearance of a body. And by and large, the Buddha said this is actually deluding. If you get too fascinated with that, it takes you out into unskillful states such as anxiety over your appearance, or vanity over it, concern about its aging, or just passion, craving, lust, and so forth. So this stuff you want to actually discard heightened awareness over that. Just kind of make it something you recognize this is something that's going to change and pass away. Instead, you cultivate the body internally, externally, mindfulness of body internally and externally. And so, this is the refrain that's used in this Satipatthana teachings. And sometimes, or actually very commonly, this this sense of internal oneself, external other people. But it seems when one reviews practice, it seems this isn't, perhaps, doesn't seem very likely really, since, for a start, it's quite easy to say, if you mean it, be mindful of other people, be mindful of your own body, but he doesn't say that. And there's a very interesting examples that are given of this cultivation. One of them is this teaching of an acrobat. There's two acrobats. And one's a little girl, one's the elder, is the bigger acrobat, and the little young acrobat. They're both the senior acrobats walking along a pole, and the junior acrobat, the little girl, is balancing on a pole that's on top of the elder acrobat's shoulders, or even his hands, so she's on top of this. So this is pretty tricky. And so he's saying, well, you keep on, look after me. If you look after me, you be mindful of me. I'll be mindful of you. That the way we'll get down off this pole correctly. And the little girl, she's pretty smart. She says, no, that's not going to do. That's not going to work at all. I'll be mindful of this body. You be mindful of your body. This way we'll manage it. Because if I'm mindful of my body, internally, externally, and you are, then we'll both be balanced, right? So what does it take? If you're an acrobat, you probably know. You've got to be aware of the contact with your tripwire, you're walking your bamboo pole, you're really aware of how your physical body is balancing. So you're aware externally, you're also aware internally whether you're tense, agitated, or losing it, losing awareness. So you're very focused on this body externally in relationship to the space around it and whatever it's touching. Internally, you might say the degrees of tension and balance, numbness that are present there. And if those are held correctly, you will be in balance. So this gives us a kind of an idea. And a further example the Buddha used of this saying, well, imagine you are, say, walking through a crowd and you have a bowl of oil on your head. And right behind you is somebody with a sword. And you're walking through a crowd with a bowl of oil on your head. And right in front of you, there's a dancer. So this is a male configuration, so it's a female dancer. And she's really great, He says, but if you don't keep attention to this body, you drop one drop of oil, the man with a sword cuts your head off. So he said, okay, what does it take? Now, if you're being mindful of other people's bodies, you're going to get your head cut off. So you don't give attention to other people, you give attention to this body, how it's moving, and how you're steering through space, and also whether you're balanced. So internally, and that's a pretty, powerful example. The Buddha used. He did use these very strong examples to make a strong point. And his last point was for you, you're cultivating mindfulness of body. It's rather like having a post that you drive into the ground and you tether touch, sight, sound, thought, odour, and all the six senses, okay, to that post, rather like six animals, so they don't run out. So the thinking mind, touch, hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling are all tethered to mindfulness of body. Well, we consider this clearly if the touch sense itself isn't something we're tethering to an internal quality of body. So this is this sense of the primacy again of the internal quality of the body, because that moderates the other senses. You know? So then you moderate that, because if you are focused deeply on the general balance, disposition, nervous energy, stress, sensitivity, your energy is collected here, it's not running out. And then you're going to be steady and composed. And this then acts as the primary means for restraining the mind, which above all is the base that runs out. It runs out into thinking, conceiving, planning, imagining, comparing, fretting, worrying, fantasizing, remember, and so forth. It runs out because, and none of this is actually, you can't enter it. It's just like a blizzard. It just whirls around you, can't sit down with it. So the more that occurs, the more spun out one gets. So when we want to enter, we enter into the internal quality of mind. And as in meditation, as you come into the internal quality of body and restrain the outgoing mind, repeatedly, steadily, it sits down. And it begins to relax. And it begins to shake off its dullness and restlessness and craving. And it starts to know itself. And it's called awakening. So when we cultivate like this, we're in a way, entering into a particular place of deep cultivation and deep transformation. Because most of our identities, I'd imagine, are based upon external qualities. Physical appearance, passport photographs, physical appearance, name, age, gender. That's who I am. And then what I do, I'm a doctor, I'm a driver, I'm a business executive, I'm a whatever. That's what I am. External qualities. And I'm not very good at computers, cooking, looking after babies, nursing, digging, whatever. I'm not very good at these external activities. It kind of defines us. And then, what do other people think of me? We define ourselves in terms of external judgments. So when we begin to just pause around all that, and perhaps not even know who we are, not conceive who we are, not plan how we should be, not anguish over what we were. Give up that activity and have some support to give up that activity. Transformations occur. Because the point is, if we give up that activity, it doesn't mean there's nothing there. The internal qualities start to have some room to arise. And in retreat time, this is both perilous, confusing, disorienting, and wonderful. Because it is a paradigm shift. It's a big shift. So this way, because it is such a powerful shift, we suddenly find ourselves, we begin to relinquish external, outgoing. Doesn't mean we can't see or think, but we're not, or walk around, but it means we're not putting our energies out into that and just moderating it, guarding it. Then what arises is the internal qualities. And this is in this, lining up, the way the Buddha lined it up. You have these both hindrances and enlightenment factors. Hindrances such as sense desire, craving, irritation, ill will, negativity towards yourself and others, dullness, restless agitation, and speculative thinking, constantly searching for answers, even though they don't satisfy. So it's kind of, it gets stuck. I think if I could find the answer, if I knew what this was, I'd be, So you can go into that, and all this stuff takes you out. Sense desire takes you out, ill will takes you out. So we say, well, actually, this is your challenge, and to be able to disengage from that, you just can't. You can't do it by thinking. It's not substantial enough. It's not. You have to deal with something that's autonomous, and the beauty of the body, on my estimation, is why the Buddha emphasizes, because the body is autonomous from the mind. That means it's got its own awareness, its own intelligence, its own sensitivity, separate from our mental activity. For example, if you try to think about how to walk, what muscles you would operate to walk, and which sequence of muscles you use just to do a simple thing like walking, you probably couldn't do it. But you don't need to think to walk. You just get up, have the idea, I'll go there, and the body just starts doing it. It's not operated by thinking mind, it's operated by the body. You don't have to think to breathe. Imagine if you had to think to breathe, you'd probably be dead by now. It goes on. When you're asleep, it goes on. You don't need the mind to breathe. You can have people in coma breathing. Because the body, I think, it's got its own intelligence, its own awareness, its own system. So this actually, when you get into it, this can, if you focus on it, this can give you a separate domain to dwell in, to sense, to tune into, that is separate from the thinking mind, the outgoing mind. But at the same time, because it's associated with feeling, it very much affects the feeling mind, the internal mind, the citta, right? You see, because the body, although obviously bones and thoughts are completely different dimensions, but the bodily awareness that knows how much effort is needed to lift a cup by touching it, knows how to walk, knows how to find balance, that feels things. And that quality of feeling is the very same quality that the citta operates through, it feels. So you begin to cultivate steady bodily feeling internally through walking and through breathing and through standing and through moving around. So you get a kind of steady input, and the internal mind, the citta, picks that up. Picks it up. Hey, this is okay. I can trust this. It's here. It's very intimate. It's something I can enter into. I can actually dwell in it and linger in it. The more I linger in it, the better it gets. And the more wide-reaching its effects are. And it disengages from the spinning wheel of mental proliferation. So this is The Buddha said it was his vehicle to liberation, was this very body. And he said, of all of these, the best you can find is the breathing, that process. This is the best one, because it gets extremely comfortable and extremely far-reaching. But, be that as it may, as we enter, we're just beginning to do this gear change and move into, internal, external, minimizing, just tidying up the external, establishing the internal, using the external body, the movements of it, to satisfy or to simplify or to steady the internal body, the nervous energy, the balance, the energies in the body are calm, steady. So you've got an abiding place, somewhere to enter. You enter into there, you start to investigate. Oh, when this is like this, the quality of ill will subsides. Oh, when the in-breath comes in very fully, the quality of dullness and sleepiness passes. When I relax in my body, the quality of irritability subsides. When I feel comfortable in my body, the potential for craving weakens and diminishes. When I'm fully absorbing into that, doubting and trying to find an answer stops, because I found an answer. This is where suffering and stress subsides. This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel established. So this is why this is taught and encouraged. So I'll leave it there for tonight. We have a good period of practice time, and many of these teachings I imagine you've heard before, and we'll just kind of refresh and turn them over. So this is just a welcoming gesture to establish our template, our reference points for this ongoing period of practice.